Well, I have been waiting for this all summer long. It is finally foraging season, and you guys know it's all about the walking life ever since I moved to the cottage. And every time I go on a walk or on a stroll, or almost every time, I make sure to bring a little sack with me or something that I can use to forage. Now, you know, something that we need to take note of, and that is respectful foraging. So pretty much everything that I have found here was on a sidewalk or in a public place or something. I wasn't scavenging in anyone's backyard or in a federal park or anything like that. But I did come up with some treasures, and these are just some of the things that I have found that I hope to transform into seasonal decor, really not only just for fall, but all the way into winter and even into the holidays. Now for you, you might want to forage for decor. You might want to forage for school projects. You might want to forage for, oh, I don't know, a leaf collection or a fairy garden, anything like that. Just keep your mind open to all sorts of different imaginative ways that you can use your foraged finds. Okay, for me, probably the easiest thing to find anywhere are beautiful leaves. Now, in my neighborhood now, we are blessed with just the most magnificent sycamore leaves. And sycamores tend to really lend themselves to this first thing that I like to do. I first started this practice last year, Stuart. I don't know if you remember when we made leaf bouquets. And right here, Stuart, let's put that picture of the mantle at the fairy tale house where I had them in candle holders, almost as if they were bouquets, on my mantle. It was very hygge. It was very, very cozy. And Stuart's saying hello to you guys. So what do you need to make leaf bouquets? Well, number one, obviously, you need leaves. Now, what I look for are beautiful leaves that are relatively untattered, but also leaves that have a long stem. And then I just start composing my bouquet as I walk. So not only do I want ones that have a strong stem, I want ones that have interesting folds. And in this case, it even has a little bit, can you see there, a lacy quality to it, probably from some pests or whatever. I like that because it kind of helps reflects the light and might make interesting shadows later. So all of these that I've gathered, these are all brown, but they could also be green. They could also be red. Our leaves have not yet turned color, so they could also be red. So see why I have some that have interesting folds, because look what that does.
Creates a shape.
It creates a shape, and it creates some dimension and additional texture.
That's it right there.
That's it right there. Look at this one. This one almost looks like, it looks like mahogany.
Well, how cool is it just to focus on what individual leaves look like?
Oh, I know.
That's a pretty fun
yes,
thing. Like,
and to
nobody's
just
doing that.
and to appreciate the beauty of each individual leaf.
Yeah.
So look here at just the different shades of brown in this one leaf, and then look at the contours of its folding, not to mention the beautiful veining. And see how it's already starting to come together into a fun form. And sometimes I'll get them of different sizes depending on, I don't know, just depending on how the leaves are speaking to me. The other thing that I do is I look at placement. Okay, in which direction am I going to place it in the bouquet, just like with flowers. I could do this flat, but look at how much more interesting it is to give it dimensions and almost kind of a star-like projecting quality when I turn it on its side versus flat. Now, I could do this in a mammoth way. I mean, I could make this huge. I could keep going, but just since now you guys probably don't want to spend all day with me, I am just going to basically stop here. So what I've got then is my grouping of leaves with long stems. And then I just hold on to them very, very tightly. Now, hopefully I can do this without a second set of hands. I get some of these tiny little, I just spilled them, tiny little rubber bands. I use these a lot in making my flower arrangements. We will put a link below because they're clear and they virtually disappear. And then I am just taking them and putting them around each one of the stems. And like I say, sometimes it helps to have two hands. Usually on these small ones, I think it takes about 3 turns to get it relatively secure. Now at this point, I can do other things. And what I also love is, look, if it feels a little bit loose, I just pull those stems down until they are taut. Now look at that. Isn't that pretty? Now at this point, I can do other things. I can add more kinds of greenery. I've got some dried boxwood here, and I could add some dried boxwood to it. I could add some, boy, probably the thing I missed most about the other house, Stuart, is I just had so many berries, so many nandina berries and other kinds of berries to work with, and I don't have those, as many of those here, but I could put some nandina berries in there that have not yet turned red, but are in that kind of caramel color, that kind of rusty red that I like so much. I could do that. I could put another type of leaf with a different texture in here. For example, I could tuck these oak leaves in here, and I could tuck them in, and they would add another kind of dimension to them. But these, my favorite way, I think, to display them is just to make them kind of monochrome. Excuse us because the trash man is just going by. So appreciate all of the people that do those kinds of jobs for us. So typically I like to use all one kind of leaves in my bouquet, but you guys knock yourselves out. Use whatever type of leaves that you like. Again, it would be beautiful if some of these leaves had already turned, but they have not yet in my area. So I'm just using these as brown. This is what I did with them at the fairy tale house. I just used some clear gloss enamel spray paint. It's not really, it's just a spray coating, I guess. I sprayed them so that they just glistened, and then I put them in some candle holders like this, and I just had these really fun arrangements to put on my mantle. And you could do that. You could adorn it some more. You could tuck some moss around the base. You could just, like I say, knock yourself out and use any of your foraged finds. But you know what else I think this would be absolutely brilliant for? If you were having a fall wedding and you had a very, very tight budget, add some berries to this, or add maybe 1 or 2 fresh blooms to this, and I think these would just make a beautiful bouquet for the bride, for the bridesmaids. You could do something interesting with some bark that you also found. So this is some sycamore bark, and you could make some kind of something that you could hang on your door knocker or on your front door or your side door or your closet for that matter. So my favorite thing to do is make these leaf bouquets. I just find them satisfying, and in fact I can hardly take a walk anymore without stopping and looking for beautiful, beautiful leaves. So that is one way to use the leaves in your neighborhood. Now you can also do something like this and gather really beautiful branches. Of course, you do want to make sure that you check for pests and de-pest them to the extent possible before you bring these indoors. But you could also put a glossy enamel coat on this. It would be beautiful. And let's say that I was doing a food spread, a groaning board, and I wanted a tablescape to run up and down the center. I could put down my table runner, and then I could put these type of branches all running up and down the table, and then I could just put nuts nestled in. I could put pears, I could put apples, I could put anything that speaks of the season just nestled into these beautiful oak leaf branches. And I think that would be spectacular running up and down. In fact, I might even use that for one of our dinner parties. That's kind of a good idea.
So why don't you
I
talk
might use
yourself
that.
into it?
Yeah, I'm talking, because can't you just see that? It would just be beautiful running up and down a table, especially a wood table like this, because it's got that woodsy vibe. You could also put a ribbon on it and just hang it like this, and it would be beautiful. It would be elegant. You could leave it natural. You could put maybe some acorns or some pine cones on it, and it would make a beautiful frond suspended from anywhere. So that's another way to use leaves. Not only in big ways like this, but also in small ways like this. So this would be very dear, tucked into a ribbon on a present or one of those gift bags or something like that, suspended. Let's say you're giving someone freshly baked cookies, put a beautiful caramel ribbon on it and tie it up and put some of these leaves, because they just speak to the season like nothing else, except for maybe wonderful acorns. So
really nice
these
acorns.
are beautiful. And if you'll notice, I was very discriminating, and all of these still have their heads attached, which is more than I can say for myself sometimes,
Yeah.
Stuart. But they are just perfect. Now I could leave them in this natural state like this. We could do fun little crafts with them. I could just put them in a foraging bowl, which is, I think, so fun to do for kiddos.
Teach squirrels with them.
Tease squirrels with them, yes, but I don't have so much of that problem anymore, Stuart. But just I think it's really fun to start maybe a great big, you could use this basket, for example. By the way, hey Trace, my sister-in-law Tracy gave me this basket years ago, but you could put this basket out somewhere where the kiddos could just collect their treasures, and they could just put all of them, after they unstuff their pockets, they could put all of them in their nature treasure bowl. Look there, look, it's just little things like that. Delight me to no end. So you could take your acorns and put those all in there, as you could beautiful pine cones. And I'm also pretty discriminating about my pine cones, what comes home with me and what doesn't. And just by making this kind of nature bowl, you're creating a centerpiece of sorts. And just take your other things that you have foraged, kind of just tuck them in and around. There's no right way, no wrong way. Just appreciate nature. Okay, this was an interesting foraged find. I already have some of
how
these.
Did you find these without getting
into somebody's yard? Okay, because one of the things I love about this neighborhood is that we have alleys. And you can walk up and down the alleys to and fro to take shortcuts or whatever. And there actually was a friend of mine, so it wouldn't have mattered anyway. But they had some raised beds on the other side of the fence up against, along the alley, and they had been growing okra, and sometimes it gets so hot that everybody kind of abandons their gardens towards the end of the seasons.
okra.
But they'd been growing okra, and a lot of these had just kind of trickled down and were in the middle of the alley.
They're very artistic.
They're very artistic, and I've already got an inventory of these, and I have used them over the years in many, many ways. I've told this story a million times, Stuart, that in a very hoity-toity florist in Santa Fe. They were selling these at great expense. So I just took note of how they had them displayed, and now, and not only is this a foraged find because they're inherently beautiful, but also because some of them still have some of this, they're musical and they have some seeds still in them that I might want to use. And then any kind of interesting bark. Stuart, remember when we made the bark vases?
I do.
And we did that arrangement with Southern Living for a Southern Living video with beautiful bark. We took a Folgers can and some spray adhesive and we surrounded it. We need to put a link right here, Stuart. Let's put a picture.
How about it be the one at the end?
The one at the end.
It'll be the video at the end. They can click and watch.
Video at the end, but maybe we can put a still here if
maybe
we
do that,
remember of what it looked like if you're wanting to make a bark vase. This, I just find these peelings, which is just, it's just a specific feature of sycamore trees. They're bark peels, and I think it is just so beautiful. So interesting bark like that. I love the graining of it. And of course, then I have my big oak leaf fronds. And this is just like I say, I just went out really without intention. It was just whatever it was that I found. And I came up with some beauties, I think. I'm always on the lookout for berries, for anything like that. Now, this is something that for any of you that live in other parts of the country you just think, why would she collect that? Well, because pine straw is highly valued as a mulch for different things, like you could mulch your encore azaleas with pine straw because they like their soil slightly acidic, but it does make a great mulch. Pine trees where I live are we have them, but they're in relatively short supply. But I was walking down a main drag and there was pine straw just everywhere.
Seems like I've always lived by pine straw.
Pine straw, really? I need you to gather it for me sometime. But I love the way it looks. So if I was doing some kind of nature basket, a winter version of an Easter basket, I could kind of use that as Christmas grass or something. Maybe I want to mulch a potted plant or an outdoor plant in that. And then probably this just delighted me no end, because I was walking down a stretch and on the street, there were lots of dead, dried leaves of iris that had brown and had fallen off. And what does that look like, Stuart? Corn stalks. Looks very much like corn stalks. So I gathered up a bunch of it a bouquet to put underneath my pumpkins. I made a leaf bouquet, and then look at this beautiful centerpiece I have right here. I think that would just be great as just a centerpiece. I could nestle in some pomegranates or some persimmons or pears, some red Anjou pears, anything like that, and I think it would be beautiful, as would now these I did buy. I foraged these, I guess.
You found these walking down the
Yes, I foraged these. I foraged these from the farmer's market.
There you go.
But it would also be so fun, I think, to just, do something like this. What an easy centerpiece for any kind of autumnal fete you are having, or Thanksgiving, anything like that. But I'm going to show you momentarily two things. Other ways I would use these great leaf bouquets, but also where I might use them to decorate my own home and garden. Well, what am I reading this week? Well, to make me a little bit less lonesome for my boys who are both far away, but also my boys as they were when they were in grade school, when they were younger, and we used to read to them every night. I periodically, each season, whatever, holiday or whatever, I pull out their kids' books that were their very, very favorites, and I read them again. And this one, I promise you, based on a story by Nathaniel Hawthorne. Feathertop is iconic in our family. My son Johnny references it all of the time. The pictures in it are they're just well loved, and it's also, it kind of sparked also an interest in him to read Nathaniel Hawthorne, because it was based on a story by him. Now, I wanted to find a link to this book for you, and I could not. The actual book is actually by Robert Sanssouci. So as I was doing a little bit of investigatory work, I could not find that book, but I discovered he has all sorts of other children's books. And one I think I am going to order just because, even though I don't have grandkids, is a book called... It is called The Talking Eggs. Sorry, I'm doing this in very bright sunlight. It's called The Talking Eggs. Why this one? Because it has 384 5-stars, and it is a teacher's pick. The reading age is from 2 to 8 years. And so I think I am going to order this just because I liked his other books so much that I'm intrigued by what other kinds of works he produces, and if it's also based on a classic. So that is one book. Of course, we'll put the links below. That is one book that I am rereading fondly and with great sentimentality and nostalgia. Now, another book that I'm reading that I read about is a New York Times bestseller. It was actually written in, I want to say 2018, or published in 2018. And this was in response to just feeling down in the dumps about the situation in the world, about climate change, just about everything. And this book, called Factfulness, 10 Reasons We're Wrong About the World and Why Things Are Better Than You Think, seemed to be just the right prescription for me. And indeed, so far it has been. I've just started it. It is by a Swedish gentleman, and I think his daughter and brother-in-law, or son and daughter-in-law, Hans Rosling. Again, it was a New York Times bestseller list. And I just love the fact that it highlights what is really better about things over time rather than worse from a global perspective, not just here in the US, but from a global perspective as it relates to things like poverty and average income and things. I haven't gotten to any parts yet about the environment, but nevertheless, it has been uplifting, and I have enjoyed reading it. And I had a misconception about a number of things that I thought were worse than they really were. So that's always a good thing. Don't you think, Stuart? It's always a good thing to be wrong about something you thought that was bad, and it turns out to be good. So I will put a link to both of these. Okay, this is important. What I learned this week. I learned so much from my brothers and sisters. One thing I learned from my brother Martin is to celebrate just every weird kind of day there is. I mean, it might be, I don't know, National Shoelace Day or something like that. But he often will recognize that and then send it out in the sibling text so that we can all get a little chuckle. Just a little bit of happiness for the day, joyful jolt for the day, because it's just kind of fun and quirky. And by the way, I talk about this in my most recent newsletter. If you want to subscribe to a little bit of conversation and connection, we call it, then just go to www.lindavotter.com and we will put you on the newsletter list so that you can be in the loop. But I talked a little bit about that. But it's something else that I learned from another sibling. You guys know I come from a huge family of wonderful people. And my younger sister, Barb, is an ophthalmologist, and she and I were talking about something completely unrelated, but she referenced the fact that in my family, macular degeneration can be a problem. And since she is an ophthalmologist, she suggested that I and my siblings start taking AREDS 2 formula. Now with OcuSorb, better absorbing nutrients for ocular health and to help prevent macular degeneration. And that's something I do think about, particularly since like right now, I'm staring straight into the sun. And sun isn't not only bad for your skin, it's probably also bad for your ocular health. And so I will put, these are made by Bausch & Lomb, and I will put a link below. But increasingly as I age, I'm trying to think about all of these kinds of things. And fortunately, my sister is an eye doc, and she told me that this might be preventive. So there you go. There's a couple of things that I learned this week that I am reading this week, and it might help you in one way or another. Okay, because sometimes I just can't leave good enough alone. I have to get out my spray paint. Now, one of the funnest things that I've loved about moving to the cottage is that I can play with a whole different color palette than I have played with historically in the past. In the other house, it was mostly about reds and greens and earth tones and things like that. And here I am able to bring in blues and aquas and whites and lavender, just different colors that historically weren't that much a part of my indoor and even my outdoor decor. So as I was thinking already about what I'm going to do to decorate for the Christmas home tour, I thought, okay.
What a reveal.
What a reveal! What a reveal in my brown box. I thought, how fun would it be if I spray painted some of these leaves and I did something with them that I could definitely, yes, I could use them in the fall. I could use them if I wanted to do a blue and white table for Thanksgiving, but I could also use them at Christmas time because it's got kind of a wintry vibe. They may not be classic green, red, and white Christmas colors, but nevertheless, they are blue and wintry, and I like that. So I selected 2 spray paint colors. I've just got on 1 coat on them, and I'm deciding if I like the way a little bit of the brown comes through. Can you see that? If I like the way a little bit of the brown comes through, or if I want to do them solid, you'll note that I did not paint the stems because I wanted the stems to stay natural. So I am using 2 different colors. I am using this metallic blue, and we will put links below. This is a Rust-Oleum. I don't know that it even has the name of it. Metallic cobalt blue. So that was my first color, and then I thought, ooh, it would be so fun to have dimension, color dimension, different tone on tones, and so I got it's got kind of a galvanized finish, metallic finish in turquoise. So what could I do with these? Well, I could do the same thing, and I could make pretty leaf bouquets, but in this case, they would all be in turquoise and blue, and these are still a little bit damp, you guys. So it's not going to quite fit together the way I wanted, but isn't that a pretty combo, a pretty color combo? So I could do that, but what I'm thinking, what I may do is spray some of them, and then these will do a number of different things. They will adorn packages. Wouldn't that be beautiful? As part of a gift wrap, a signature touch. Thank you for that. I could also use them as place cards, and I could write people's names on them, the place setting. You could also use that as gift tags by writing their name on them. But what I'm thinking about is how fun would it be to use some beautiful string or something and make a garland of them and hang them up singularly in a window or across a mantle with all of these at different levels singularly. Wouldn't that be beautiful? I think that could be very, very fun. But wait, I've got one more idea. So you guys know that I may have shown you, and we'll put a link below too, because I'm on the Christmas tour and I'm having to think more about it than I normally do because I'm reinventing things. So I bought a metallic Christmas tree, and it's coming out to be in tones of brass, aquas, blues, things like that. And I do love it, but it was, even with the ornaments I put on it, it's still missing some dimensionality and a textural quality and a scale quality that I was missing. So, oh my goodness, look what I found. Now, isn't that fun? Because don't these look like little Christmas ornaments?
Yeah, I was about to say that's the kicker right there.
Isn't that the kicker? So I can spray paint some of these singly or use them like this. That would even be fun as a topper for a tree. I could suspend these on the tree. Of course, the tip is you get them then when they still are attached, and they come with their own hook. They come with their own hook. I could spray paint these in some white or some pearlescent colors or whatever. But I think it's so fun. And again, if your budget is challenged, then let Mother Nature help you find some innovative, beautiful, shiny ways to decorate your house for fall and for the holidays and winter. So here are some different ways that I would use this beautiful leaf swag that I made. Now, do I wish my gate was already finished? Yes, I do, but it's not. I could nevertheless adorn it for my first dinner party to make guests feel welcome. I could use it just like this. I could also add some of that corn. Wouldn't that be gorgeous? And oh so autumnal, just by putting a nail in there and hanging this on. One thing about spraying it with that enamel is that it would weatherproof it to a certain extent, but even if it didn't, what will I do? I will just go out and make another one. So I really just love this kind of fall swag, and you could adorn it, like I say, with all sorts of different things. Okay, now here's another place I could put it. Could put it on the door to nowhere. I could also put it on my metal terrain wreath that I got last year, and I think that would be really beautiful at the base, don't you, Stuart? Yep. I think that could look great. I don't want to impede the door knocker, but I could attach it there with or without a piece of this dried corn. Now, if you don't have this kind of setup on your door or whatever, but you do have lights, you do have carriage lights or whatever, then you could also put the swags by your carriage lights. And I think that would be very fun. If you had a light post or some kind of lanterns outside, you could also suspend this from the fixture of your light post. And I think that would be very, very fun. Now let's go inside. Now I have switched out the all-white pumpkins on my mantle. I had a white porcelain bowl, you may recall, and I've switched it out with this wonderful organic-looking vase container that I had in my bedroom that had orchids in it for the longest time. So I could also have used this somehow. I don't have enough hands, Stuart, to complement this. I could have used this in its place. I think I already have enough on the mantle, but I could have used this, or I could use this on my kitchen table, and it would very much then communicate with the decor that I had in other parts of the house. Stuart, you might recognize a couple of the leaves because I actually saved them. That leaf was just mammoth, and I actually saved that. and I brought it back this year. So those are just some of the few ways that you guys can use dried foliage that is just there for the taking, subject and limited only by your imagination, maybe by your finger dexterity. And as I'm looking here, Stuart, let's close out on this. It would also be beautiful to, in some way, use those dried hydrangeas along with the dried leaves. I think it could be really, really beautiful. Well, here is your outfit du jour from top to bottom. These sunnies I bought online. In fact, I bought them in green. I like them so much that I bought a pair in brown, and I'm also going to be buying, I think, a number of pair of them to use as stocking stuffers, Stuart. I think they're really, really great. I love the way they look, but mostly I love them because they fit so well. And when I move my head up and down in the garden, they don't slip down my nose. And they're only like $15. We will put a link below. Okay, this little caramel ensemble, the October color of the month, caramel, I bought a while ago, but I love it because I can finally wear it. This is something you wouldn't probably reference, Stuart, but this reminds me of Princess Di because she always used to wear shorts with sweatshirts. It was kind of one of her looks. And this is the perfect ensemble for this kind of weather because it's kind of cool, kind of hot. I can wear some kind of t-shirt underneath it and take the sweatshirt off if it gets too hot. But I like it, and I love the fact that it's in October caramel. We will put a link below. And then, of course, I've got my tried and true easy slip on, easy slip off high C boots. And I love them as well. Have I forgotten anything? Let's see, earrings. Earrings I bought from the Hatch Chili Festival. It was just a really fun little gift I bought for myself. So I think that's it. There is your outfit du jour. Okay, this is so fun. So it was just about a year ago that I saw the cottage for the first time. We didn't move in and we didn't buy it until in December, but I saw it for the first time. It must have been in October. And how do I know that? Because I remember and took lots of pictures of it, this mammoth skeleton that was right across the street. Notice the scale of it. That was right across the street from the cottage. I just loved it. And so night before last, when I heard my neighbors out here putting it back up again, I can't tell you, it was like seeing an old lost friend. And now not only do I have my old friend revisiting me, the skeleton, but I also now have new friends. This is Charlie's house. You met Charlie. And they live right across the street, and this is their skeleton. And it was just, well, it just gave me no end of pleasure to have this guy back again, shake his hand, say hello, and as I told you, Halloween in my neighborhood is just huge. And I mean, can you believe how tall this is, Stuart?
That would have been the perfect ending line because
you
end on the huge guy.
Yeah, he's just huge. So how tall? I mean, it's as tall as the street light.
That's it's gotta be 15, 17, 18.
Yeah, how they got it up, I have no idea. But it is just fun, and it was fun for me to welcome back a long lost friend.